All right, so moving on here, we notice that with our panel, the wire that connects it is a little bit different. That wire is showing you that there are sets of information within that list. So when you hover over this here, if you think about it, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There are 8 sets, each of which has 7 items within it. So I'll repeat that. Looking at this, these items here on the left, that's the count for how many sets there are. And then the n equals is the number of items within each of those sets. Okay? So we have some tools available to us to help us visualize exactly what these are and where they are. The cool thing about the tool is that it basically will allow you to display the count of where these items are. So I'm going to go to display, the display tab, and go under vector. And this one right here, it's called point list. Point list is basically going to, on every anchor point that you give it, it'll give you a numerical index, just like the structure of what you saw in the panel. So when I plug in the points, for instance, I'm just going to go with points for now. I'll show you the cells in a moment. When you plug in the points to points, you can see that these numbers are created. They're really hard to see right now. But we can bump up the size by adding a slider to change the numerical value of how big those numbers are. So let me add a slider. This is under vector grid. Display and vector. And let me add that slider. 0 less than, say, 5 is usually a good starting point. So I'm going to say 0 to 5. And I'll plug that into S. This is just changing the size of the text. So there you go, some big text. And here you have it. I'm going to reattach that panel actually, so that now you can see it from a point perspective. All right, so let's talk through this. We created a grid. The grid had points at every corner. When I displayed the number of each of those points, they came out in packets of 7. Index value 0, index value 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 7. Then it starts over again in a new set. This is very, very important to understand. These items can be changed. You can change the direction of them so that it reads 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 the other way. But we won't get there unless we need to. I just want you to know you can. The more important thing to understand is, well, how do I read this in a linear fashion? How do I read all of these items as one giant list? So that's done by a feature called flattening. And flattening is done at the actual output or input level. So you take this point output and you right-click it, and you have these features here that allow you to change the way that the information is being read. So I can flatten that list, and now it reads as one continuous list of numbers all the way up to its maximum index value, which is 71, which means you have 72 points in that list. You guys need a moment to catch up? What was that?
Can you repeat again?
From where? From what point?
Oh, the last part. Yes.
So, yeah, I'm going to restate it, but in a slightly different way here in just a moment. Okay, so we'll do that, and then I'll answer any clarification that you have. So, before I flattened it, I'm going to add on another display here. Okay, I want you to see what it looks like graphically, the way this information is structured. So, basically, this is a tree. If you think of it like the way it's structured as data, it's kind of like a tree, right? The trunk is the way, the logic of how it's broken down, and then it takes all of the individual branches and it creates little packets, right? Those sets are branches. So when you go to param and utility, there's this cool tool that's called the param viewer, and we're not really going to use it extensively, but it's a good way of visualizing a lot of things. So anyway, the param viewer, we can plug in the list of points, and what that reads right now is basically the same thing that you see here, the preview list. But when you right click it, you can do this thing that's called draw tree, and it shows you the levels, the branches of what you've generated. Does it look really confusing to you right now? I see you guys like kind of scowling at it, like you don't understand what it's for. So anyway, you don't really need to dig into it too much. I just want you to understand the relationship that it has to the individual lists themselves. Count how many there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Where's that other one coming from? Oh, 0 to 8. That's why. Yeah. So there's 9. Yeah. My bad. I got lost with that 0 thing again. Anyway, so there are 9 groups of these, and so when I flatten it, it's going to look quite different. Basically, it took all of those branches and it pared it down to one linear list of items.
How do you flatten it again?
Right click P and click on flatten. Okay. Yeah, let's pause here for a moment.